Hello and welcome to my channel, Crochet and Copy. My name is Judy. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make this lovely bag. I call it the V corner bag. Why I call it that? Because we start off with a triangle shaped like a V, and then we went ahead and we shape it out. We did each corner. So it's 4 corners we did to make it into a square. And we use wooden handles to attach to our bag. And in this tutorial, I'm not going to show you how to line the bag, but in my next tutorial, I will show you how to actually line the bag. So look out for that tutorial. I just wanted to show you too my practice one that I did. In this one, when we did in my pattern, I call this the 3rd corner and the 4th corner, where we see the different from the angle of the V. I put it on the bottom of the bag. Here for the tutorial, I put it on the top of the bag. So you can mix it up as you want to. And of course, you see this is a different kind of yarn. So it's just showing you options that you can have. You don't have to use the wooden handle like I did. You could do it by just crochet around, but center it. Make sure you use your stitch marker, keep it centered. And that's it. But this is my practice one. I just want to show you too. And also I did the mattress stitch I use for this, and I use of course a different color yarn that doesn't match up, so you could see. That's why I choose not to do that. I use, when we move on with the tutorial, you see how I close it up. But this is it. See how it doesn't really show here when you use the color yarn that matches up. All right. So in the next tutorial, I'll show you how to line our bag. Before we get started, I wanted to show you the measurement of our bag. So I go across 10 inches, and from the top to the bottom be 10 inches too. All right. And that's without, of course, the wooden handles. These are supplies we're going to be using to complete our bag. We're going to be using 2 different color yarn. I'll go into more detail regarding the yarn, but let's put them here for now. Move on to the other supply. We're going to be using a 4.5 millimeter hook. We're going to be using a few stitch markers. We also need a yarn needle and a scissors. And lastly, we're going to be using, for our bag handle, we're going to use wooden bag handle. And the size that I have is 6.5 from here to here. And as you see, is it shaped like a D. More information regarding the bag handle. I purchased this from Amazon, but when I went back into my order history, I could not find it again. So for you, I'm going to put in the description more detail with the size actually for where we're going to crochet in the center of the bag handle. Now more details about our yarn. The yarn that we're using from the company is Circular. If I pronounce the names wrong, please forgive me. Let's move on. It's natural cotton. This is the Multicolor Premium. It's a 4x6. And in this ball of yarn, you have 247 yards. Same company, natural. This is cotton for the 4x8, and this is the 4x6. And in this ball of yarn, you have 370 yards. Turn them to the back so we could get more detail. For this one, I would say the shade of red. There's 3 light worsted weight. And this one is the 4 worsted. And as I take out a little piece so you can see. This is for the 3 light, and this is for the 4 worsted weight. See the different size. This is thicker, and this is not as thick. So that's for the 3. And this is 100% Brazilian virgin cotton. And this one is 100% mercerized Brazilian virgin cotton. And for the ball of yarn, there is no name specifically for them. They give the color numbers. So the number for this one is 9153, and it goes with a batch. 701291, the red, and the white The color is 20 and the batch number is 7841, and then it's 05. We're going to start off using the white yarn first. And the first step we need to do is to get our yarn attached to our hook. And how we do that is by using a slip knot stitch. I'll show you how I do my slip knot stitch. If you have a different method of doing the slip knot stitch, you go ahead and use it. So this is how I'm comfortable in doing my slip knot stitch. I take it, my yarn, and I drape it over my 2 fingers and I let it fall to the back. And I take my hook, put it between my 2 fingers, and I pull up that working yarn, and I have a little knot, and take that little knot and tighten it against my hook. And there you go. We created a slip knot stitch. Now we need 2 chain, and a chain is simply yarn over your hook, pull through, yarn over your hook, pull through, and that's it. So we only need 2 chain. And how you could know you've made your 2 chain, they're divided like into a V shape. So that's our 2 chain. What I like to do when I work in my chain, I like to work in the little bars or those little bumps in the back of them. So we're going to put our stitches here. So now the next step is the second chain from our hook. So this is our first chain from our hook right here, and this is the second one. And of course I'm going to use the back. You don't have to if you don't want to, but I'm going to use the back little bars right here. So we're going to put 1 single crochet to start off right there, and a single crochet is you go into that, I'll show you again, go into that little bump right there, and a single crochet consists of you pull a loop of yarn on your hook up. There you go. And then to complete the single crochet, you yarn over, and those 2 loops you have on your hook, you're going to pull straight across. And that's how you do a single crochet. Now what we're going to do next, we're going to chain 1. And you know how to do the chain. You just yarn over a hook, pull through. What I'm going to do here, so I don't lose my spot, if you could find it, you don't have to do this, but I recommend it. I'm going to just put it right here, because when we go in to make the next, because we're going to how you're going to do the pattern is 1 single crochet, you chain 1, and then you go right back down into that same chain, and you're going to put another single crochet. So when you do it, don't want to lose my chain 1 space, because we're going to come back and work into that chain 1 space. Show you as we move along. So go back down into that same chain. And remember to do the single crochet, go into that chain, pull up a loop, 2 loops on your hook, yarn over. With those 2 loops, we're going to take them off. So you yarn over your hook and you pull straight across. There you go. That's how you do a single crochet. See why I say to put that stitch marker there? Because everything kind of get a little tight when we're working in there. So it seems kind of hard to find it. So that's completion of row 1, because we're working in rows, and this will be considered the right side of our work. And at this point too, what I like to do, I'll show you, because like I said, this is the right side of our work. I take another stitch marker, of course a different color, see the little shade different. What I'm going to do is go under the stitch right here and put this stitch marker here, and then this will remind me this is where we started, and this is our first row. And for row 1, the completion of row 1, we have 1, 2 single crochet, and where our stitch marker is, that's our chain 1 space. So for row 1, the completion of it, you have 2 single crochet and 1 chain 1 space. Now to start row 2, you're going to chain 1 and you turn your work. Now for that first single crochet that we have right there, we're going to put 1 single crochet right there. Open it up so you can see it a little bit for you, because we're going under. Remember, the single crochet shapes like a V, so we're going under those 2 loops right there. And you know how to do the single crochet. You just go into that single crochet, you pull up that loop, yarn over, complete, pull across. And here what you could do is you could put a stitch marker so you know this will be your first stitch for row 2 that we started, because we're going to come back and work in them whenever we go up with our rows. All right, so if you need help with that, put that there. So the pattern again for the center, remember I told you to put that stitch marker there to remember where our chain 1 space is, and it opens it up so we could see it there, because it's a little hard to find it when you come back around. So I'm just going to go right in there, because these are all the stitch we're going to do as we did from row 1. You're going to put 1 single crochet to start off. See, I left the stitch marker there to help me. There it goes. I'm going to take it out now, and you're going to chain 1, and I'm going to put my stitch marker back around right there, so when I go back down to make the next single crochet, I don't lose all the stitches and where to put my stitches. Okay, so you go back down in there. I'm going to put another single crochet. There you go. See, when you do that, you could lose where the chain 1 space is right between there. And that's why I like the stitch markers. They help me out a lot. And then we have 1 last single crochet right here. Try to open it up so you can see. It's right there. There it goes. Underneath those 2 V or V shape, 2 loops, you're going to put 1 single crochet right there. And that's it. So that's how we do it, and that's our pattern. Now to complete row 2, make sure you have, let's do them together. Remember we put our first stitch right here with our stitch marker to remind us. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4 single crochet, and of course where our center stitch marker is at, that's our chain 1 space. So for the completion of row 2, make sure you have 4 single crochet and 1 chain 1 space. Now to start row 3, chain your 1 and turn our work. Now for row 3, for our 2 single crochet that we have, try to spread them open so you can see. We're going to put 1 single crochet in each of them. So the first stitch is right here. You know how to do the single crochet because I showed you and you've been doing it. Here now, I could put that stitch marker here. So remind me we started that row there. Again, remember you don't have to do this if you could find it, because it looks a lot of little stitch markers all over the spot, but it helps you a lot when you're new to crochet and you want to find where you place your stitches. So the next single crochet we're going to put right here in the second stitch. There you go. So we made it to the center again where our chain 1 space is at, where stitch marker is at. You could take it out, but I just go right in to start it. Now I take out my stitch marker so you don't lose your spot, and you're gonna put 1 single crochet, because remember that's the pattern. 1 single crochet to start off. You chain your 1. Gonna put my stitch marker back up top. It's not holding on right now, but when you go back down in that same chain 1 space to make the next single crochet we need to put into that chain 1 space, then our stitch marker is going to stay. And you put your last single crochet. There you go. Now moving on with row 3, we have 1 single crochet there, and where our stitch marker is at, that's our last single crochet. So go ahead and put in those 2 stitches, put 1 single crochet. So that's it for row 3. And how we make sure we're on track, you need 6 single crochet and 1 chain 1 space for row 6. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 single crochet, because I skipped the chain 1 space when I'm counting the single crochet. So you have the 6 single crochet and 1 chain 1 space for the completion of row 3. So now to start row 4, you're going to chain your 1 and turn your work. So now for row 4, you see those 3 stitches we have right there. You're going to put 1 single crochet, and then when you get to the chain 1 space where a stitch marker is at, you're going to do the pattern of putting 1 single crochet, you're going to chain 1 and then go back down to that same stitch and put another single crochet, and then after that you're going to have 3 stitches, you're going to put 1 single crochet. So go ahead and do that, and then we'll meet back up. And this is how we look when we complete row 4. And with row 4 you have 8 stitches and 1 chain 1 space in the center of our work. Now to start row 5, you chain your 1, you turn your work. Now for row 5, what we're going to be doing is going to be doing back loops. As I told you earlier, the single crochet has that shape of a V. So the single crochet is divided. This will be considered the front part of our work, a front loop. Here, that's our front loop. And then here be considered the back part of our loop. So that's what we're going to be working in, the back part of our loop for row 5. So for row 5 we have 4 stitches. We're going to put 1 single crochet in the back loop. So here goes the first one. Remember, use the back loop, and it's just the regular single crochet you're doing. It's just where you're putting the stitch now, change, and that's it. We're not going through between, so we could pick up the 2 loops, but we're using the back loop. Okay, I'll show you again. Back loop right there, and just a regular single crochet. Another one was right here. Just do the regular single crochet, and the last one is right here. And that's it. That's how when we do our back loop. You see, when we're doing the pattern of the back loop, we're doing it in the front of our work, because remember, this is our little stitch marker to remind us this is the front of our work where we started. So now we made it to the center. We're chain 1 spaces. You know what to do there. Just do 1 single crochet, and we're not using the back loop here. We're going through the stitch itself, a regular single crochet. Okay, come out to the other side. So all you're going to do is follow the pattern of doing 1 single crochet, chain your 1, put my stitch marker back to remind me, and then go back into that same chain 1 space and put another single crochet. That's it. Here you could get a little lost or confused, because when you look at it, you only see 1, 2, 3 stitches remaining to work, but we need, because the pattern, when you work with it, you see we're on row 5. So when you're on row 5, for the single crochet we do, we need 4 stitches and 4 stitches here before we get to the center, and so on and so on. So when you're at row 6, you would need 5 single crochet here, 5 stitches, and 5 here. Then you have the center. So we know we're at row 5, so we have to go and find it, because when we do it, and the yarn is a little chunky, so be careful, because it happened to me a few times when I was doing it. So you have to go and find the first stitch over here. There you go. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'm on track, and my numbers and everything stay up and line up with the pattern. So you do the back loop, because that's what we were looking for, the back loop. And also too, I wanted to fix, because I had split my yarn right there, so I just want to fix that, and then complete that single crochet in the back loop. So that's 1, and then you have 3 more to do. For row 5, make sure you have 10 stitches, and then you have that chain 1 space in the center. So basically that's it for a pattern that we're going to be using when we move on up with our rows. I'm not going to show you as detailed as I did from row 1 to row 5, because you get the hint of what we're doing. And of course, for row 6, what you're going to do is you're going to chain your one and turn your work. For each row, make sure you do that before you move on. You chain your one and you turn your work. So now we're at the back of our work and we're doing row 6. So for row 6, what you're going to do is you're going to do 5 stitch with 1 single crochet, and you follow the pattern in the center where you do a single crochet, then you do your chain 1, and then you go back and do that single crochet, and you have 5 stitches to complete that row. Because it's row 6 that we're working with, you would put 1 single crochet in each of those 5 stitches. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to come back in and tell you and show you how we look when we move on with the row. So go ahead and complete that row. I'm not going to show you how to do it because you know by now what we're doing. All right, so do that and then we meet back up. When you do row 6, just do the regular single crochet. Do not use the back loop method. For completion of row 6, make sure you have 12 stitches and your chain 1 space. Now for row 7, I already chain my 1 and turn my work. So for row 7, you're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stitches. You're going to use the back loop, and that's where we're going to work in for row 7. So go ahead and complete that by putting 1 single crochet in each of our stitch and just the back loop. And when you get to the center, remember, just use the regular single crochet method and continue with the pattern. Do not use the back loop. And now for the remaining 6 stitches, you're just going to use the back loop and do the regular single crochet. So for row 7, we completed. Make sure you have your 14 stitches and the chain 1 space. And as you see, as we move on for each row, we're increasing by 2. And whenever we do the back loop pattern, we do it on the right side of our work. So for row 8, I went ahead and I chained my 1 and I turned my work. I won't show you how to do row 8 and row 9 because at the end of row 9 we're going to change our color. So I'm going to come back in. Just use the regular single crochet method. We're not doing the back loop. Go ahead and do row 8 and row 9. Now we made it up to row 9 and we have that last stitch to do. And I told you I'm going to show you how, because we're going to change our color, how we do that. So we're switching over now to the red. So we're going to start the single crochet, that last stitch, like that. We're not going to complete it. We're going to complete it with the new color yarn. Now red, of course. And then give it a nice little tail so we could tuck in later. And all you do is just pull it up on your hook and you complete that single crochet by pulling that new yarn over. There you go. And that's how we change our color. And we drop the color yarn that we were working with, the old color, the white, and we have the new color yarn. And then to start the new row, row 10, you're going to chain your 1 and you're going to turn your work. And for the completion of row 9, make sure you have your 18 stitches and your chain 1 space. So go ahead and complete row 10 by doing the regular single crochet method. And at the completion of row 10, you're going to have 20 stitches and your chain 1 space. So go ahead and do that and then we'll meet back up. So this is how we look when we complete row 10. And at the completion of row 10, make sure you have your 20 stitches and your chain 1 space. So for row 11, I already chained my 1, turned my work. Now we're going to do the back loop method for row 11. So go ahead and do that and then we'll meet back up at the completion of row 11. Also want to let you know what I did is I cut off the old yarn we're working with, the white yarn, so that I could work better. So go ahead and do that, cut it off. And for row 11, when we complete row 11, we have 22 stitches and our chain 1 space. And we were doing the back loop only method. So row 12, you're going to chain your 1, turn your work. And for row 11, we're doing the regular single crochet. So go ahead and do that. And you know by now how many times we do it before we get to the center of our work and we do the pattern. So go ahead and do that for 11 times. Do the pattern in the center and then again 11 times back down. So we completed row 12, and with completion of row 12 we have 24 stitches and our chain 1 space. So now for row 13, what you're going to do is you're going to do the back loop method, and of course you're going to follow the pattern for the chain 1 space. And we're going to change our color here also at the end of row 13. So start it but do not complete that single crochet in the back loop. So for row 13 we made it to do that last stitch, and remember I told you we're going to change back to our white, change our color, so we're going back to the white. Of course I give it a tail so we could tuck in later, and all you do, remember, is just put loop on your hook and complete that single crochet by pulling the loop through, and that's it. That's how you do the change of our color. You could tug on it to hold on, so when you go to the next row you could work with it a little better. So for the completion of row 13, make sure you have your 26 stitches and of course the pattern for the chain 1 space in the center. So go ahead and cut off the red yarn and give it a tail so we could tuck in later, because that's what I did. So now for row 14, 15 and 16, all you're going to do is do the regular single crochet method for those rows. Won't show you. You get the idea that we're increasing by 2 each row as we go up, and you follow the pattern for the center. So we made it up to row 16. What we're going to do row 17 now. So for the completion of row 16, make sure you have your 32 stitches and the pattern for the center. So now we're going to do row 17, and with row 17 we're going to use the back loop. So go ahead and complete row 17 with the back loop, and then we'll meet back up. So we went ahead and completed row 17 in the back loops only, except for the center where we do not use the back loop, and we have 34 stitches at the completion of row 17. So now go ahead and complete row 18 with doing the regular single crochet method, and we're going to change our color at the end of row 18 back to the red. Went ahead and completed row 18, and when we completed row 18 we have 36 stitches and our pattern in the center of our work. And also at the end of row 18 I went ahead and I changed my color back to our red, and I cut off our old color yarn. So now for row 19 we're going to be working in the back loop of our stitches, and of course being that we're working in row 19, you know you're going to do that for 18 times, and then of course you follow the pattern for the center of our work, and then going back down you do that for 18 times, and then that will complete row 19. Of course we're doing the back loops. So go ahead and complete that, and we will meet back up at the end of row 19. So we completed row 19, and with the completion of row 19 we have our 38 stitches. So now for row 20, 21 and 22, for those 3 rows I won't show you how to do it, because all we're going to do is just do 1 single crochet in each of our stitch. And at the completion of row 22 we're going to meet back up, because we're going to change our color again. All right, so for those 3 rows I won't show you how to do it, but you go ahead and do it, and then we'll meet back up. So now we made it up to row 22, and at the completion of row 22 you're going to have 44 stitches. At the end of row 22 we went ahead and changed back to our white color yarn. Now to start row 23, what we're going to do for row 23 is do the back loops. And of course, you know, when you get to the center of our work, the pattern that we've been following you do there. All right, so we went ahead and did row 23 with the back loops, and at the completion of row 23 we have 46 stitches. Now moving on to row 24, I went ahead and I chained my one and I turned my work. So now for row 24, all we're going to do is we're going to do 1 single crochet in each of our stitch, and of course, you know, when you get to the center you follow the pattern of doing the 1 single crochet, you chain your 1, and then you go right back down into that same stitch and you put another single crochet. So go ahead and do that for row 24. 4, and then we meet back up. We went ahead and we completed row 24, and with the completion of row 24 we have 48 stitches, and of course we have our chain 1 space. Now we're starting row 25. I chain my 1 and I turn my work. So for row 25, what we're going to do, we're going to be working in the back loop. So go ahead and do that. We put in 1 single crochet in our back loop, and of course till you get to the center, and you follow the pattern again that we do for the center. When you complete that, we meet back up. So we went ahead and we completed row 25, and at the completion of row 25 and working in the back loops, we have 50 stitches with our chain 1 space in the center. So I went ahead for row 26 to start it. I chain my 1, I turn my work, and now for row 26 we're going to do the regular single crochet in each of our stitch. And of course when we get to the center, we keep the pattern that we've been following in the center. And at the end of row 26, what you're going to do too is you're going to change your color. So go ahead and do that, and then we meet back up. We went ahead and we completed row 26, and with the completion of row 26 we have 52 stitches, and of course we have at the center our chain 1 space. Also too, at the end of row 26 we change our color back to the red, and we also cut off the old yarn that we were working with. So we're going to start row 27. I went ahead and I chained my 1 and I turned my work. So for row 27 and row 28, I'm not going to show you how to do it because it's just 1 single crochet in each of our stitch. And of course, remember to follow the pattern in the center. So for row 27 and row 28, you go ahead and complete it. And then when we're going to start row 29, we meet back up. Now we made it up to row 28, and with the completion of row 28, we have our 56 stitches. And of course, we have the chain 1 space in the center. So now we're going to start row 29. I went ahead and I chained my 1 and I turned my work. And for row 29, this will be the last row that we're going to be increasing. Now the pattern called for us to do row 29 in the back loops. So we're going to do the back loop for row 29, but here what we've been doing is we've been taking out our stitch marker and putting back in for each row as we move up to at the end, so that we can remember to find it. But here I'm going to use this stitch marker, different color, because now I want to mark the start of row 29, because we're going to refer back to it. And I'm going to leave that stitch marker right there. I'm not going to move this one. So now keep on working. Remember with the back loop. And then we meet at the other end of this row. And then I'll show you what to do at the end of that row. We went ahead and we completed row 29. And by completing row 29, we have 58 stitches. And of course, we have our chain 1 space. Here, I also want to do the same thing that we did when we started this row, row 29. Because I have my other stitch marker, took it out. So what we're going to do is we're going to put this stitch marker here to end this row. And we're not going to move it, all right? We're going to leave it right there. And how I'm going to do it is I'm going to go around the post of the stitch. And hopefully you can see good right here. I'm not going to go up here that I've been doing before through the two, like we're doing the regular single crochet, but I'm going around the post here. So when we come back to working it for row 30, it won't be in our way. So when we completed row 29, we see how we look like a V. So now we have to turn our V into a square. So now for row 30, I chain my 1 and I turn my work, and we're going to be decreasing. And how we're going to be decreasing, we're going to use the single crochet 2 together method. I'll show you how we do that. So single crochet 2 together is you go into that first stitch, you pull up a loop, you go into the next stitch, you pull up another loop. So you're going to have 3 loops on your hook. You're going to yarn over and you pull across 3 of those loops on your hook. And that's how we use the single crochet 2 together method. And here I'm going to put back in the other stitch marker. And this will help me to know the end of my row. Remember, keep that one there. Now what you're going to do for 25 stitches, you're going to put 1 single crochet in each of them, and then we meet back up. So by doing the 25 single crochet, we have 2 more stitches before we meet to the center of our stitch marker, and we're going to stop there. So I'll show you how we're going to do it. We're going to use again the single crochet 2 together method, but we also want to change our color here. So again, the single crochet is you go into that first stitch, you pull up a loop, you hold on to it on your hook, you go into the next stitch and you pull up another loop, so you have those 3 loops on your hook. But here, remember, we want to change our color, so you're going to keep this yarn here because we want all our tails to be in the back of our work. And then we're going to, because we're in the back of our work, grab our new yarn. Of course, it's the white yarn, give it a tail like we've been doing, and then you just pull through with the white yarn across our 3 loops that we have on our hook. There you go. So we completed changing our color for yarn, and we also did the single crochet 2 together method. So that's it for row 30, because we're going to leave the remaining stitch that we have on work. And at the completion of row 30, make sure you have 27 stitches. So now we're going to start row 31. What I did is I chained my 1 and I turned my work, and also too I cut off the old yarn. Of course, that's the red yarn we were working with, and I'm leaving the stitch marker in the center of our work. So like what we did for row 30, we're also going to do for row 31, in the sense of decrease, and the other following rows that we're going to work on, we're going to be decreasing. So we're going to be decreasing at the start of our row and at the end of our row. So I'll show you again how to decrease. So you go into that first stitch, you pull up a loop, go into the second stitch and you pull up a loop. You have those 2 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull straight across. And that's how you do this single crochet 2 together method. And here, so I put in that other stitch marker. So remind me, this is the end of my row. Now for row 31, you're going to be using the back loop method for 23 times. So for 23 times, 1 single crochet in the back loop only of each of our stitch. And then when you get to the end, where, well, for me, it looks like a purple color stitch marker. You're going to use the 2 last stitch to decrease, and remember the decrease is the single crochet 2 together method. So go ahead and do that, and then we'll meet back up. So we finish row 31, and with the completion of row 31, make sure you have 25 stitches before moving on. Now moving on to row 32, 33 and 34. I won't show you how to do them because it's what we just did here. We're going to do, we're decreasing. So you're going to decrease the first 2 stitch and the last 2 stitch, and the stitch between you're going to put 1 single crochet. And then when we get to row 34, we're going to change color. So I'm going to meet you there. So go ahead and work on those 3 rows and we'll meet back up. So we made it up to row 34, and we're going to do our change our color, and we're doing the single crochet 2 together method. Right? So again, just pull up. There you go. And of course, this is the back of work, so our tail is in the back, and you're going to go ahead and cut off the old yarn we were working with. And at the completion of row 34, make sure you have your 19 stitches. So now we're going to do row 35. I chain my 1 and I turn my work, and with row 35 we're going to work in the back loop only. And what you could do is also do that when you're doing the decrease method of the single crochet 2 together. So what you do, you could go in the back loop and then pull up that loop of yarn, go into the back loop, pull up the loop of yarn, then yarn over, complete it that way. I didn't show you that earlier because we were working with the white, and see how it is down here. To me, it's not that pronounced. It doesn't bother me. If you prefer this method, go ahead and use it. But for right now, for this one, because it's the changes into the red to the white, I don't want it to show that much. So I use the back loop to do the single crochet 2 together method, and then just continue doing the back loop. And also here, do the back loop when you're decreasing with the single crochet 2 together. So we went ahead and completed row 35, and by completing row 35 we have 17 stitches. So now for row 36, I'm not going to show you how to do it because it's just basically you decrease, and of course you use the regular decrease method because we're just going to do one single crochet in each of our stitch till we get to the last 2 stitch, and then at the last 2 stitch you decrease. So go ahead and do that for row 36 and then we meet back up. So we complete row 36, and with the completion of row 36 we have 15 stitches. Now we're going to start row 37, and for row 37 we need to use the back loop method to complete that row. But here for our 2 stitches we're going to decrease them by using a single crochet 2 together method. But like how we did here when we were doing the change of color, we use the back loop. Here we don't have to. If you want to, when you're using the single crochet 2 together method, if you want to use the back loops only, you go ahead and do that. But I'm not doing that because it's not really going to show because we're not changing the color. So now for the other remaining stitch, use the back loop till you get to the last 2 stitches, and then do the single crochet 2 together decrease method, and then we meet back up. So now we completed row 37, and by completing row 37, the end of it we should have 13 stitches. So now for row 38, 39, and 40, you go ahead and do them. I won't show you because all you're going to do is you're going to decrease the first 2 stitch and the last 2 stitch, and then the other stitch in the center you're going to put 1 single crochet in each of them, just a regular single crochet. So we're going to meet back at the end of row 40. So we completed row 40, and with the completion of row 40, make sure you have 7 stitches. Now we made it to row 41. I chained my 1 and turned my work, and for row 41 what we're going to do, we're going to be working in the back loops, right? And of course you decrease the first 2 stitch and you also decrease the last 2 stitch. So we complete row 41, and with the completion of row 41 we have 5 stitches. So for row 42 I already chained my 1 and turned my work. What we're going to do is we're going to decrease the first 2 stitch by using the single crochet 2 together method, and for the next stitch all we're going to do is do 1 single crochet, and then we have these 2 stitches remaining, you're going to decrease them. So go ahead and do that, and then we meet back up. So we complete that. So for the end of row 43 we have 3 stitches. So this will be our final row to do, and for row 43 I already chained my 1, turned my work. You're gonna decrease by using a single crochet 2 together method for the first stitch, and then for that last stitch right there where we have our stitch marker, all we're gonna do is do 1 single crochet, and that's it. We're finished. So for the completion of row 43 you have 2 stitches. Now all that's left to do for this side is we're going to fasten off, and to fasten off I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to pull up a nice little tail, and I'm going to grab my scissors and cut it off because we're going to use it to tuck in later, the tail. This is how it looks when I cut off my tail, my yarn, just tucking in a little bit, that chain we did there, and that's the first corner of our V completed. So now we're going to work on the other side of our V to make it into the square just like we did here. So now we have to join our yarn, and we're joining our yarn, we turn it to the back of our work. So we're in the back, and we're going to join it where our stitch marker was that remind us that this is the center of our work when we did the single crochet in the chain 1 space. So right here is the chain 1 space, and that's where we're going to join our yarn. Now to join it, we want to keep our tail in the back of our work, because this is the back. Give it a nice little tail. Take the hook, come from the front, and then you're going to pull up a loop of yarn. There you go, and leave the stitch marker there. And this is our chain 1 space, the center of our work. And then you're just going to do a chain, 1 chain, and that's it. And this will help hold it in place. And that's how we attach our yarn. So now for the first 2 stitch we have 1, 2, we're going to just decrease them, because this is now, remember, we're working on the other side, unworked stitches from row 29, and we're decreasing. This is our decrease, and with this we're going to start new rows. So you're going to hear me say row 1, row 2. So that's what we're going to do now. All right, so this would be row 1, and we're decreasing. And of course, I go back to the stitch marker that I was using from before when I did the other side, just reusing them. And now for the remainder of the other stitch we have, you're just going to do 1 single crochet till you get here, the last 2 stitch, and I'll show you how I do it. So now I made it to where I have those 2 last stitch to do for row 1, and here we're going to change our color, but I want to leave this stitch marker in here, because remember, this is where I tell you to leave this stitch marker. So we're just going to work over it. All right, so we're going to decrease using the single crochet 2 together method and just go into that stitch and do it. And then remember, before we complete it, you change your color. So go ahead and do that, and then we meet back up. So at the end of row 1, make sure you have 27 stitches. Okay, so we're going to start row 2, and for row 2, what we're going to do is we're going to do the back loop method. And I chain my 1 and turn my work already. So we're going to use the single crochet to decrease the first 2 stitch though, because remember, these are a decrease row now that we're working with. So you can use the back loop, and if you don't want to use the back loop, you don't have to use the back loop. Okay, so for the first 2 stitch we decrease, and when you get back to the other stitch marker to remind you, you decrease, and again single crochet, but in the back loop only. So when you complete row 2, make sure you have 25 stitches. So for row 3, I chain my 1, I turn my work. So now for row 3, 4, and 5, I'm not going to show you how to do it, but follow the pattern that we did on the other side, where you decrease the 2 first stitches and the last 2 stitches of that row, and then the stitches in the center you put 1 single crochet. So we meet back up at the end of row 5. So we made it up to row 5 now to complete it, and here at row 5 we're decreasing, and we're also going to change our color. So go ahead and do that by using a single crochet 2 together method and change the color of our yarn back to red. And by doing that, make sure that at the completion of row 5 you have 19 stitches. Now moving on for row 6, I chain my 1 and turn my work already. Here we're going to do the back loop method, and of course we're still decreasing. So go ahead and decrease the first 2 stitch and the last 2 stitch and the stitch between. You're going to just do the back loop method. All right, and then we meet back up when you finish this row. We went ahead and completed row 6, and with the completion of row 6, make sure you have your 17 stitches. Now we're going to move on to row 7. For here, row 7 till we get to row 14, I'm not going to show you how to do it because we did it right here when we did this section. Okay, because that's it. We're not going to change the color anymore. We're just going to be working in the red, and we're decreasing as we go. So now for row 7, all you're going to do is you're going to do the regular single crochet, but when you get to row 8, you're going to use the back loop only, and then you're going to go to row 9, 10, and 11. You do the regular single crochet method, and then when you get to row 12, you use the back loop method again. And for row 13 and 14, when you get there, you're just going to do the regular single crochet, because it's going to get you to the same pattern that we have here on the side, because we're not changing the color of our yarn anymore. So go ahead, complete that side. So now we made it up to row 14, and with row 14 we have our 2 stitches, and I chain my 1 already, and I pull up a tail. I'm just going to grab my scissors and cut it off, and that's it for the other side, and I'll show you how it looks. I think it's coming out pretty nice. We're doing awesome work, and that's the back of our work. This is the front of our work. We're doing a great job. Now we're going to start shaping out the 3rd corner of our triangle, and this is the where we started. Remember when I told you to put that stitch marker to remind us this is the front of our bag, and then this is where we put the stitch marker at the end of row 29. So we're going to attach the yarn there, and I'll show you again how to attach it. And what yarn we're going to attach is the red color yarn. And of course, this is the front of our work. All right, so we're going to keep that tail in the back. So go right into where our stitch marker is for row 29. Give it a tail and just pull up that loop. And then you know what to do. You chain your wand to hold it in place and pull on it so it stays. Now for that next stitch right here, we're going to use it, but this is where we had did the back loop, so it's a little separated. So what I'm going to do is go into it like that, right, when we use it, so it's under the two loops. Now for here, you see these are the end of the row when we were working, so there's no way I could say like how we did when we did the other section when we started, where you put your actual stitch in each of the single crochet we did from the previous row. Here what you're going to do is you're going to make sure that you put 27 single crochet right till you get to the where we started. So you're going to stop. Hold on, let me just get my hook out so I can show you. We're going to stop before we get into this little space here. This space right here is where we put all those. When we first started this, remember we started with two chain, so that's where the chain space where we put all those, because it was the single crochet, a chain one, and then a single crochet. So it gives you that little gap right there, that little hole. We're going to stop before that. We're going to stop here. So you need to do 27 single crochet up the edge. All right, we're going to go up this way, and this will be a new row we're starting again. So we're going to start with row 1 like how we just did, to add on the other section for a bag. So we're starting row 1, and with row 1 we're not decreasing yet. Right now what we're trying to do is trying to get 27 single crochet up our edge. So that's what you're going to work on. And if you need to take it out, if you didn't have 27 or 28 or 29, just redo it, you know, do it over again. All right, so we just want to make sure we have 27 single crochet. So for row 1 we completed that with 27 stitches. So now for row 2 I already chained my one and I turned my work. So now we're going to start focusing on decreasing. So you know how to decrease, so go ahead and decrease. And for this row, row 2, all you're going to do is do 1 single crochet in each of our stitch, and of course you decrease the first 2 and the last 2. So go ahead and do that, and we'll meet back up at the end of row 2. For the completion of row 2, make sure you have 25 stitches. Also keep in mind that regarding the pattern that we're doing here for the third corner, we're also going to be using that same pattern for when we're completing the last corner to do. Now for row 3, I chained my one, I turned my work already, and for row 3 we're going to do the back loop only, and of course the first 2 stitch we're decreasing, and when you get to the last 2 stitch you decrease those. But remember, this row is in the back loop only, so go ahead and do that, and then we'll meet back up. For the completion of row 3, make sure you have 23 stitches. Now we're going to start row 4. I chained my one, turned my work. So for the first 2 stitches we're going to use the single crochet 2 together by decreasing it, and then for 19 stitches you're going to do just 1 single crochet, and then the last 2 stitch you're going to also decrease those by using the single crochet 2 together method, and then we meet back up. So we completed row 4, and with the completion of row 4 make sure you have 21 stitches. Now we're moving on to row 5, and with row 5 already chain my one, turn my work, and we're going to use the single crochet 2 together method to decrease the first 2, and remember the last 2 of the row we will do the same method. And now for row 5, what you're going to do is do the back loop only for 17 stitches. So go ahead and do that pattern, and then we meet back up when we complete row 5. For the completion of row 5 we have 19 stitches. Now for row 6, 7 and 8, I'm not going to show you how to do it for those 3 rows, because what we're going to do is we're going to just do the decrease method in the 2 stitch and the last 2 stitch, and then the stitch in the center we just put 1 single crochet. So go ahead and do that, and then we'll meet back up at the end of row 8 because we're going to change our color there. Now we made it up to row 8, and we're going to complete row 8 by changing our color back to the white. By changing our color and completing row 8, make sure you have 13 stitches at the completion of row 8. Now for row 9, I did go ahead and I cut off my old yarn, being the red yarn I was working with. So for row 9, I chain my 1 and I turn my work already. Now for row 9, what we need to do, we need to work in the back loops only. And here, because with the white, and I wanted to not show too much, I'm also going to use the back loops when we're doing the single crochet decrease method. All right, so that's what I'm going to do for here, and also for when we're using a single crochet 2 together for the last 2 stitch. By completing row 9, make sure you have 11 stitches. So we're starting row 10. I chain my 1 and I turn my work, and for the first 2 stitch, you know the pattern is we use the single crochet 2 together. I'm going to decrease those, and now for the next 7 stitches, all you're going to do is put 1 single crochet in each of them. And when you get to the last 2, you know that we use the single crochet 2 together decrease method, but we're going to change our color there, so we're going to meet there. So I went ahead and I changed my color at the end of row 10 to the red color, and I cut off my white, the old color yarn that I've been working in. And by completing row 10, make sure you have 9 stitches. Now we're moving on to row 11. And for row 11, we're going to be working in the back loops only. And of course, you know the pattern that we do to the first 2 stitch and the last 2 stitch. So go ahead and do that, and then we meet back up. So we completed row 11, and with the completion of row 11, make sure you have 7 stitches. Now we have row 12, 13, and 14 to do. I'm not going to show you how to do them because basically it's just 1 single crochet. But of course, you know you use the pattern of decreasing with the single crochet 2 together method in the first 2 stitch and the last 2 stitch. And of course, when you get to row 14, all you do is just do the decrease method for the first 2, and the last stitch you just put 1 single crochet in it. So you will have 2 single crochet at the end of row 14, and we meet back up. So we made it to the end of row 14, and we have our 2 stitches. So remember, you chain your 1. And this is fastening off, pull up a little tail, grab your scissors, cut that off, and we're finished with our 3rd corner. Just wanted to show you how we look so far. This is the corner we just finished. So we only have 1 more corner to do, and it's right here, and that's what we're going to work on next. And to do our last corner, we're also going to be working in new rows. So it's going to be, this is going to be row 1 we're starting with. So now for row 1, we have to attach our yarn, and what we're going to do is we're going to start where, remember I told you to put our stitch marker to let us know this is the front of our work, and this is where row 1 was when we started. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your hook, go right in the center of it, right there, and we're going to use the red yarn first. So you're going to join it, just pull up a loop in your hook. And that's it. That's where we're going to start. So my first stitch for row 1, I'm going to use like basically underneath where our stitch marker is at here, right there. I'm going to use that as our first stitch. Okay, so this will be our first stitch for row 1. Now what we need to do is do 27 single crochet down our edge till we get to where our stitch marker is from row 29 when we put it there. So it's just 1 single crochet, just like how we did when we started the 3rd side. All right, so go ahead and do that. Put 27 single crochet, and of course you stop where our stitch marker reminds us to stop. So we completed row 1 by putting 27 stitches down our edge, and we stop where our stitch marker is at. Now for row 2 and the remaining rows that we need to shape out this corner, I'm not going to show you how to do it because when we shaped out the third corner is the exact same method we're going to use and the rows for here. So go ahead and do what we did from this corner to complete this corner. So this is how we look now when we finish all our corners and we shape it out into a square. Now we're going to move on to our next step, and our next step is we're going to have to weave in our ends. Now our next step is to weave in our ends. I picked a corner. You could pick in where you want to start, but of course make sure you do it in the back. We're on the back of our work. I just wanted to show you one of them, and you could go ahead and do the others, okay? But for the corner, go into the center and come out to the side of that stitch. I'm going to turn it so I could work with it better. So now I'm going to I'm trying to keep it on the wrong side, and I want to come out in the front when I do it. So you look for stitches that are close by, and then you're just going to weave it underneath it, okay, as you go along. And this will be inside of our bag too. So I want it to be show nice. We're trying to just make it look nice as we work, okay? So that's one corner. Do it a couple times. So now I think I did that enough time, nice and secure. And you can feel it when you do it too, if you think it's nice and secure. So all that's left, we're just going to cut that off. So what you need to do now is go ahead and tuck them all in, and remember, do them on the wrong side. That will be inside of our bag, okay? Keep them there and try not to come out in the front. Keep everything nice and clean as you work. Now we completed tucking in all our ends. And this is how we look. And this is the wrong side of our work. And this is the front of our work. Now we completed doing the front of our bag. Now what you need to do for our next step is you have to go ahead and make another one exactly as we just did. So you have the front and the back of the bag. And when you finish that, we will meet back up and I'll show you what to do next. Now that we completed making the front and the back of our bag, our next step to do is we're going to sew it together. To sew our bag closed, how are we going to do it? We're going to sew on the wrong side. So our two stitch marker that reminds us where our front of our work is, we're going to put it together. So put the two front pieces together because we're going to sew on the wrong side. And how you're going to do it, you're going to leave the top opening, of course, for a bag. So you're going to start at this end and work your way down, and then come down to the bottom and work your way up. And that's how we're going to sew it close, our bag. So now go ahead and cut off the red yarn. I did about 80 inches, and that should be more than enough, but it's always good to have extra. And the stitch markers that we have here, I'm just going to reuse them I'm just going to pin up the areas, the different areas where I want it to stay. So when I'm sewing, we stay straight. So that's what I'm going to do with my stitch marker, just pin it around the bag. So it helps us and guides us when we're sewing. I went ahead and I used my stitch markers to help me guide me so that we stay on track when we're sewing it up. So you could go ahead and do that. And this is how it looks when we do it. Being that our yarn is not attached to our project, we have to attach it. So we're going to start here, and then we're just going to pull up. And then you go through to the other side. And as you see, I didn't pull it all the way through. Okay, I left a little tail. And then we're going to go back right to where we started from. And this is just to help us make it anchor and attach to our project. So we're going to use the regular sewing method to sew up our bag. And the thing is, we're going to try our best not to make the red yarn show through to our white. But if you have a different method of sewing and it's better than my method, you go ahead and you use it, all right? But that's what I'm going to do to sew up the bag. try to go as close as I can to the edge. I'm just going to use the regular sewing method. You know, the regular sewing method is just back and forth, and that's it. Now I made it around and I finished sewing, and I have my bag top open, so I'm not going to sew anymore. So what I'm going to do is just give it a knot, and then I'm going to weave the tail in and then cut it off. And also for the one that we first started with, I give it a knot and I could weave it in also too. Okay, so go ahead and do that, and then we meet back up. Now to move on to our next step, what we need to do is to turn our bag inside out, and that will bring it on the right side. I went ahead and turned my bag on the right side, inside out. So that's the inside of our bag. And now this is the outside of our bag. Now our last step to do is for us to actually attach our bag handle. So that's it. When we do that, we'll be finished. So how we're going to do that is we're going to crochet around the bag opening. So pick any side of the bag where you want to use. Also, I'm going to take out these stitch markers. That was a reminder to help us to know where the front of our bag is. Like we've been doing when we attach our yarn, we give it a tail. And I'm going to go right here, and of course, you know, you just pull it up and you chain your one, and that's it to attaching our yarn. So we could start crocheting. I'm going to put my first stitch right here, and for the bag opening, what we're going to use is the single crochet, and we're going to go around our bag opening. All right, I'm going to put my stitch marker here so I know where I started. That's my first stitch, and we're just going to move along and put a single crochet around our bag opening. Go ahead and work 61 single crochet around, and when you finish doing that, we'll be here, and then I'll show you what to do next. So we did 61 single crochet around the bag opening, and now we made it around to where our stitch marker is at. So that's for round 1. So at the completion of round 1, make sure you have 61 stitches. So now to start row 2, what we need to do, take out your stitch marker. In that first stitch, we're going to put 1 single crochet, and for the next 5 stitch, you're going to put 1 single crochet, and don't forget to put your stitch marker back in. So we put 1 single crochet in 6 of our stitches. Now we're going to take our bag handle and we're going to work over it, and we're going to put 17 single crochet around it. All right, so just hold on to it this way, and then you're going to go find where the next our stitches here, so you can see it, and go around it. It's going to be a little awkward when you first try to do it, and I'm trying the tutorial to show you too, so it's a little kind of funny, but that's the idea. Just work 17 single crochet, and using the single crochet from here that we did from round 1. All right, that would be our guide to do it, and then we meet back up. And of course you could move it, so if you need room to work, so it could slide. All right, okay, so we did 17 for our bag handle. So now we're going to move on. So you have to turn it and find that stitch that's underneath, because when you look at it, you see that we finish here, so you have to find the other stitch that's underneath. I know it's a little hard to show you in the tutorial, but it's under there. You do it, you see it, and we're just going to do 1 single crochet there. So we went ahead and did, from the first bag handle we placed, we did 1 single crochet for 13 times, and now we're going to put our next bag handle. So go ahead and put 17 single crochet around our bag handle, and then we meet back up. Now for the remaining 8 stitch that we have to finish off row 2, go ahead and put 1 single crochet in each of them. So for the completion of round 2, make sure you have 61 stitches, and we're going to pull up a nice tail because we're going to fasten off now. So where our stitch marker is, what we're going to do, we're going to skip that stitch, and I'm going to go to the next stitch over, and I'm going into the center of the stitch. like using the back loop. Give it a, because we're just trying to make it look nice. We're trying to hide it to, in the sense of it to match up from round 1 to round 2. When we do work in the round, we usually have that little gap. So this is going to hide it. So now take the yarn needle and go into the stitch where our yarn is attached to, where we fasten off, and go to the back also. There you go. Take out the stitch marker so you could see. Okay, so it's like you making another stitch across the top. Look at that, that came out nice. And now I'm going to go inside and weave it in. I'm not going to show you how to weave it because that's we've been doing that a lot. So go ahead and weave it in. I just wanted to show you that part in the top. Makes it look nice. That round 1 matches up to round 2. So that's it. I weave in my end, and also the tail that we started off with for round 1, I also tuck that in. So go ahead and do that, and that's it. We're finished. We did awesome work. We're all finished. And a reminder again to check out my next tutorial. I'm going to show you how to actually line the back. I wanted to thank you for watching. Until next time, bye-bye.